How you doing, everybody? Hi, Allie. Oh boy, what a day. Um, what I thought would be sort of fun to talk about or think about is why do we choose to collect watches? And I think another related to that is why do we choose the ones that we choose? Um, One of the things I guess we all worry about to some extent if we have any of our watches stolen. And I was thinking of the advertisements I see. One of the magazines, and I think it's probably the only magazine we subscribe to, is the New Yorker, and in it there are advertisements for Rolex and for Omega. The interesting thing about Omega is that they seem to have been going now to I'm going to move my microphone over here. I think it may be off a little. Omega is now advertising as Omega Swatch. So Swatch is they want to get noticed. They want to let everybody know that Omega is part of Swatch, which to me isn't a very good idea. But what do I know? Oh, good. Oh, great, Brian. Thank you. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Richard, good to see you. We'll be flitting in and out watching the F1 qualifying. Understood. Ali, for me, two reasons: sentimental value and fascination with timekeeping. Yeah, that's mine isn't really connected to sentimental because um, there's I may be first to the sentimental because nobody else in my family was really interested in watches that much. The watches that my dad had, my brother got them all, and they weren't really that valuable of watches, so there's no sentiment in my watches. But there's sort of another kind. Is the better I got to know watches, they sort of develop a sentiment of themselves for sort of the craftsmanship, I guess. So anyway, so I guess that those would be pretty good reasons. Hey, Dominic, how you doing? Um, what I was thinking about. Well, anyway, going back to the thing that I started with the ads that I saw, and I thought, well, somebody broke in and they thought there are no Rolexes, there's no Omegas. This guy's not a very good watch collector, which would be fine with me. But that's another thing. Why again? The popular watches, especially Rolex, and I guess Patek Philippe would be included in that still. Omega's another one. Trying to think what else would be a sentimental favorite or just a sort of favorite. Maybe Cartier might be. What you got here? Hi, HRM. I mainly collect watches because they are just fascinating pieces of mechanical engineering. I used to work as a mechanic, so have great respect for watchmakers. Um, More and more, I've come into the same thing. I wasn't a mechanic at all. I used to do when I was younger. I used to do a lot of stuff with model airplane engines and could take those apart and put them back together and clean them and do all kinds of things. But that was about as far as I went. Those were pretty simple engines. I think the biggest one I got was a 35 or 15, something like that. But those were interesting too. As I don't know, I building things as a hobby has always been sort of fun. When my kids were young, I built a little fort for them, and I built when I moved in where we live now, I built a couple of sheds out in the back. Those, sort of hammer and nail things, and designed them, and some other contraptions. But I think there's something about when I've got about three or four these, those little domes where you work on watches, and it watchmaking is hard. I really think pretentious watchmaking isn't, but boy, I tell you, taking those little suckers apart and putting them back together again. Some of mine never get back together again. Some do, though. So HRM, I'm sort of on the similar, but not coming from a mechanical background at all. More from computers and things like that. I used to do a lot of sort of semi, electrical engineering stuff, but that was it. Okay, what else you guys have? Hey, Allie, watches represent the intricate craftsmanship involved in measuring something as abstract as time with complex assembly of gears and mechanism. Very well put. That is, I agree. Very well put. Yeah, that there's something about that, and well, the whole concept of time is something that the philosophically, it can be very, very, I don't know what. It can be amazing, really. One of the most amazing things about are the ancients. If you look at these ancient calendars that the Egyptians had, the Aztecs had, the Persians had, and you look at those and you figure, okay, how did those guys figure that out initially? I think, probably as far as I would get is a day, sun up and sun down. But then going from a day to a season to how the seasons and the earth orbiting around the sun and changing the axis and so forth, or its angle on the axis, all of that stuff. And then bringing this down to a finer and finer tuning of time. Anyway, you traded one addiction for another. the old gun collection. That could be interesting too. Hey, Stephen, I collect Timex watches because of the memories of my youth. I actually built a Timex museum in my home and have them displayed. You know, I had to get a Timex. I used to buy Timexes all the time. I'd buy a Timex and it would run and then until it died, and then I'd just go out and get another one. Hey, they're good watches. They were sort of honest until the day they died. When they died, mine did anyway. They were, it was game over for them. But there's a certain purity to watches like a Timex. This is why I like watches like the Tissot Petite Seconde. I like it because it's an ETA 6498-1, and that was the one that we took apart and totally put back together again with the Horological Society of New York. That course they have that 3-course weekend, and that's essentially what you do. my youth is a long time ago. Sort of goes back to sundials. Okay, well, it's a kind of thing. I guess there's really two things involved. One is why collect anything, and one of the things that I was on Jeopardy. It's a TV show with people who answer a lot of questions. And one of the things they found out, especially by the successful ones, is that they're collectors. They enjoy collecting things, and I have no idea why. Um, I I used to collect coins. I collected stamps, but nothing really major. Allie, I'm not sure if you read this book, Hands of Time: A Watchmaker's History. No, that's the one. Isn't that the one that the independents have? No, I read Henri Bergson's Time and Free Will, which is which is just like very interesting, more on a philosophical level, but still the sort of the concept of time. Um, and the weird things that happen with time and motion and space. It's like, apparently, I guess, if somebody is shot out into space and then they come back again, they can come back, and it's almost like a time machine, because they will have not gone through the same amount of time as the people here on Earth. It's weird stuff like that that is very interesting, but I don't quite get it yet. Hi, Amir. In a world of unintuitive system, watches are something I can look at and admire in mechanics. Intuitively, compared to CPU, which is engineered higher to precision than any watch ever made, but uh, it's unintuitive. Yeah, that there is something. There's the interesting thing about watches. They all have sort of this one sequence. The first part of the sequence is the mainspring. At least that's what it is to me. And then the mainspring sort of sending a torque down as a message down to the escape wheel, and then the escape wheel kicking. And that's where the whole thing to me is, boy, this looks just like a Rube Goldberg thing, but it works. I mean, there are all kinds of interesting things that are sort of Rube Goldbergies that work quite well. uh, yes, storage. Good grief. Yeah, I think I've decided when I run out of storage, I better start selling watches. Of course, I don't sell enough. Hey, Paul, for me, watches are an expression of my personal taste and sense of style, as I am endlessly fascinated by how my tastes are similar to and different from other watch hobbyists. Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's a very good point too. I um One thing I find about people who have very different tastes than I have in watches, mechanical watches, um, nothing. I mean, as opposed to being like, what's wrong with them? It's, to me, it's just like, wow, that's really interesting, and I think that makes it even more important or more interesting. And if it's that, I think, is there's sort of almost an endless chain of interesting things in watches that I find. Um, if it's not one thing, it's something else. And with me, right now, it sort of ends up in me breaking something, taking a watch apart. Oh, I got to take this apart and see what makes it tick or how it ticks. Right now, in fact, thank God for Farbe Luba. The reason I say that is that I bought two. One I could take apart and possibly break and never get back together again, and then another to just sort of tweak here and there. And so far, it's right on schedule. we got passion. Yeah, we got the passion. I think, one of the things that Brian said, you trade one passion for another one. Yeah. What has changed for you in watch collecting in the last decade? Well, watch collecting has. I think one of the things I think that changed for everybody is the price of watches. Some of these watches have just gotten out of hand. There's something else too, and going back to looking at my collection and then realizing that your typical watch thief would look at them and say, "There's nothing here." Now, a really good watch thief would know something, but looking for Rolexes and Omegas or even Patek Philippe's isn't going to get you anywhere in my collection. But it would be, but I'm not saying anything that's wrong with any of those. It's just the different tastes. I also value the artistry and beauty of various watches, the mechanical complexity and ingenuity involved in traditional watchmaking, the technological and yeah, there's the technological. That's a coming from computers, sort of that area. It's like I think it's the concerns that people have about AI. I'm not concerned about AI. I don't know. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. A lot of people are, but I think their concerns are understandable because they see that as a replacement for thinking and doing, and there's not going to be anything left for anybody to do. And I think probably one of the first robots that most people didn't recognize that put a lot of people out of business were the ATM machines. Uh, Back before ATM machines, which wasn't, maybe it was, I don't know, it was a while back. You'd go to the bank and there are all of these tellers, and you'd stand in line, and just that not there's still tellers, but there aren't as many. In our academia, in our department, there used to be two or three secretaries per department, but once the word processors came along, it was like you only needed one, and maybe not more than that. So you have those kinds of things, and I think people see artificial intelligence as somehow impinging on these other things, and I think that the it may impinge on the things that have already been impinged on. In other words, it's simply another level of computing that computers will do that they've been doing, doing some kind of replacing things that have been more traditional work things. You look at an assembly line, an automobile assembly line, and you have all these robots doing stuff that for years, auto workers used to do. And I'm sure you have that in other kind of machinery. And I know that Tag Heuer was very proud of the fact when they put in this big cybernetic table that would construct watches for them. And so, yeah, okay, that's sort of interesting. But the kind of things that I like to have are things that maybe I can't get them back together again, but I know that somebody did at one time. And that's sort of like looking and sort of examining it. And then if you add that to the whole concept of time, I think what Ali was talking about initially, my God, I tell you, it's a fascinating hobby. Okay, let's see. Nothing about this hobby makes sense. Yeah, it's driven by passion. Yeah, it doesn't. Is that I think if it made more sense, it wouldn't be as much fun. It sort of reserves sort of a something about them. If it became too simple, it wouldn't be as interesting. And there's so many different complications, different kinds of complications, everything from uh, the dial design and how you lay out the hands on the dial, to the materials used, to the connection between the movement and the hands, and or some other gizmo that is in there. I mean, just sort of something that keeps on giving. Hey, Michael, it's a taken off. It's taken off during COVID. Guess a lot of us were bored staying at home and started looking at watches. That may have been another sort of contributing factor. That may have contributed to the zoom up in prices. That suddenly you have a whole new bunch of people there, and that you could be right. James May once said a Formula One engine only runs on 15,000 RPM for an hour or two and needs to be fully rebuilt. A mechanical watch usually runs at 21,600 semi-oscillation per hour for years straight. Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I've been starting to get oil lubricants, I guess. These are synthetic lubricants, and they are, I won't say prohibitively expensive, but they're pretty expensive for for a little bitty bottle. You get this little bottle and this and something that looks like this. And this is 90-90-10, and it's something that you only put in certain places. And so I'm learning the places you can put it, the places you shouldn't put it, and just ordered another bottle for something else. Not only now will I break them, when they're broken, they're very well lubed. Not a dull moment. Hey, Pocket Watch, how you doing? Hey, Smoko. I think watch writes. I think watch writers like Jack Forster and Ariel Adams are recognizing that watch collecting has gotten a little less fun with rapid price hikes and cost savings from big groups. Well, there are two ways to look at that. I think I'm not sure what you mean by cost savings from big groups. By big groups, do you mean buying in bulk or doing something like something? I'm not sure what. I know Ariel is really interesting guy, and I like reading Jack Forster stuff, but I don't know about that aspect of it. But I think there's some sense to it. There's a difference between change and change that doesn't introduce. If change occurs in two ways, it can spoil something or it can enhance it. And I don't know how more people would enhance it, but it might. Um, and I think you also have sort of an in and out, people who are go from one collection to another. Is a little different than people who are sort of really involved in a single one. And I've known people from different ones, and I get there's I don't know. I guess you go from there's a point of being a dilettante versus being someone who's just interested, who you don't care about being the smartest guy or have the best watch collection. You just want to you just enjoy it for its sake and for what you like. I don't know. Okay, let's see what you say. finding hidden gems in an affordable price is getting harder and harder. That's for sure. I'm leaning vintage lately to find bargains. Yeah, a lot of people are. And also, they're going to pocket watches too. It won't be long until consumers can buy a watchmaking and watch service robot for at home. Yeah, an AI. I'll be there. They're not gonna. But I tell you, the good thing about it, they're not gonna pick my brain. Hey, Dominic, I like a robot watchdog. Ah, yeah, they have those. The Japanese are big on robots. I know that. There is a robot watchdog. Um, yeah, I'd like one that would guard my watch collection when I'm not at home. Really, one with big fangs and a huge bark. That'd be fun. ATM kills the bank robbing profession. Yeah, they didn't help it one bit. They really didn't. Yeah, I as a former bank robber, Brian, I think you're an authority on that. Oh, yeah. Hey, the thing about 3D printing, that's another thing. It's sort of a, CAD and a lot of the other high tech tools to make archaic um, technology. I think I'm fine with that, very much so. Hey, Army. Oh, Ollie, let me tell you what happened with my from India. They gave me a tracking number. So I was at the tracking number, and it goes to the Mumbai airport, and then it was at the Mumbai airport sorting center, and then it was at the uh, Mumbai. It was in a bag. They said it's been bagged, and then just been bagged, been bagged, been bagged, and I waited and waited and waited, and one day I had my headset on, and I don't know what I was doing. I was listening to something, probably cat videos or something stupid like that, and the mailman came to the door, and I didn't hear it ring. Not that my hearing would is that good to begin with, and it led to sort of a comedy of errors. The next day, there was a new guy with a delivery, and somehow he didn't bring it for me to sign because I was waiting there all day for it. And so I went down to the post office and asked them about it. Well, they couldn't find it, and so they went into a big panic. They finally found it, and I had to go to the post office to get it. And they'd been, I'll tell you, it's hours and hours of fun getting a watch like that. I tell you, I had a bunch of ostrich skin straps sent from Switzerland to here. They have been in the Fish and Game Inspection Center for over 2 weeks. I mean, FedEx, you can watch FedEx. FedEx was in, usually was at De Gaulle. I guess that's the clearing center. And then, you go to bed the next morning, they're there. They're ready for you, but they got to inspect it. Going through clearance is always fun. Hey, Amir, let's see. This craftsmanship aspect to it, yeah, I think is important to maintain. Oh, I think they mean like the Swatch Group using silicon to save money and Rolex using non-servable parts. That may be what they're talking about. I can see that. Yeah, yeah. Um, to me, in a way, what they've done is they've made at least the watches I collect, I think a lot of other guys do too, who really respect the craftsmanship, is they've made these more valuable in that you have it is sort of like these. Patek Philippe was making like 50,000 watches a year, and Rolex about 150,000. And I know that that number is no, it wasn't 150,000. It was a million and a half that they're making. But there was you have to really go through a lot of stuff to find the actual number. On the other hand, you have H. Moser making maybe 2 or 3,000. Same with Parmigiani, and so then you start looking at some of these other ones that are not quote popular, except among people like us. There's nothing wrong with that. They can have the other ones and stuff silicon in them until they come out the other end. I don't know. I think big groups have found ways to cut corners. Oh, they have, yeah. One of the things they do is they cut out some of the more interesting watches. You look at what when the guy from Gucci, I think it was from Gucci, who took over Parmigiani. Boy, he cut out more watches, and the watches that they have now are nice looking watches, but they're not. There's a difference between nice looking and doing some really interesting things horologically. They took out one of the most interesting horological watches that they had, and that was the retrograde hemispheres. Why did they ditch that one? It won a grand prize award and all of this other stuff, but it certainly had the most interesting horology, I think, of their watches, other than the Ovale. Longines, yeah, I think Longines may actually, yeah, they're an interesting watch. Not only do they have some good vintage watches and bargains, they got some, I think, that are still around that, you know, I don't know how long it's going to be. They're part of Swatch, so, it's only going to be a little while before they start swimming in silicon. Yeah, 10 years ago, it was easier. Lubrication is very important. I heard that the original oils used to dry and gum up and the synthetic evaporate. Mine will do both, Dominic. I got the best kind. They gum up your works and they evaporate. I think with my luck, they'll do both. Hey, Alias, the pocket. It seems you can copy messages. The video title is Can You 3D Print a Mechanical Clock? Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. I think watch collecting is that search for the perfect intersection of price, intrinsic value, craftsmanship, fit within the collection, and of course, making your friends jealous. It's oh, I want a 3D printer. A friend of mine, he started doing stuff with 3D printing several years ago, and he got really good at it. I don't think I'd ever get really good at it. There's there's so many little tricks you have to learn. It's sort of like computing, is that or programming I really could get to, especially programming that they didn't put any kind of anything in your way, just sort of pure programming. The idea, I'd love to program right down to the metal, right to the circuits, like a crazy person. Not practical, but that was the fun part. I recently bought a solid platinum Longines pocket watch, which has blue sapphire jewels instead of red rubies. Even the palette fork jewels and hairspring are blue. Wow, that does sound like a neat watch. No model number I'm aware of. It's from the 1930s. That, yeah, but like you were saying, those are very cool. Well, look, guys, my timekeeper, Rancher's not here today, but my time is up. I want to thank all of you for having great thoughts on these things. It's sort of a fun thing to think about. Um, and I don't know, to me is that I think I find new ways to enjoy it or new things to play with. So anyway, everybody stay safe and have a great rest of your weekend. Take care. See you tomorrow. Yeah, some of you I'll see tomorrow.